you for joining us today. My name is Shauna Miller, and I'm a licensed professional counselor associate here at Connections Child and Family Center. The other speaker joining us today is Jerome Javellana, and we will both be talking about just this holiday season and preparing for any stressors and managing anxiety and depression. So just a little bit of information about us, just areas of focus, things that we specialize in, if y'all had any questions. What I hope that you guys will learn today is understanding holiday triggers for yourself or for your kids, setting those healthy boundaries, how to cope ahead this holiday season with stress, anxiety, depression, helping your kids specifically with holiday stress, and specific techniques to use for stress. Lastly, we'll be talking a lot about post-holiday blues that so many of us experience. Okay, so first we're going to be talking a lot about depression and anxiety. So these symptoms sometimes tend to worsen during the holiday season. So you might notice in yourself or your kids or other family members having fatigue, loss of interest in a lot of things that we usually enjoy, anxiety around social gatherings, irritability, loneliness, and feelings of grief. A lot of people might experience grief when we're talking about loved ones that have passed away, or irritability when we're around family members, loss of interest in gathering socially with our family members, and just overall not wanting to engage or to participate at those family gatherings. So when we learn coping skills, we can utilize them when stress does increase during this holiday season. Another piece that I really want to mention and highlight is suicidal ideation. Some people do feel like the holiday season tends to increase those feelings, and there's also an increase in violence and domestic violence in the holiday season. Talking about suicidal ideation specifically, one myth that I do want to highlight is that suicide rates are actually lower during the winter and end of the year months. A lot of people think that suicide rates are higher during these months, but that's just not true. So something that we can do to help ourselves and help our kids if we are experiencing suicidal ideation is ensuring that we have a strong support network. So this could be family, friends, people at church that you really like to go to for help, talking to a professional online, your own therapist. Having a safety plan is also really necessary if you're having suicidal thoughts. So just having a list of coping skills that you can use and just a safe place when you're experiencing that type of stress. Another important thing to consider is just recognizing your own triggers. What are some things that are really causing us to feel this way, and how can we have a plan around them? And lastly, if you do feel like you're having suicidal ideation, or if your kids come to you expressing that they're feeling suicidal, seek help. So these could be local hotlines, the national hotline, or again, a crisis counselor. Okay, so next we're going to be talking about specific holiday triggers. And I know there are so many for so many people during this season. So some familiar ones that I'm sure we all have experienced is increased family conflict. When we're going into the holiday season, a lot of people inevitably are going to be around more family members. So what does that conflict look like? Another really big trigger is grief and loss during the holidays. So grief being that maybe we lost a loved one during this time, or maybe it's the first holiday season we are having without a loved one. Grief can also be about losing a relationship. A lot of people have divorced parents, and this again might be the first holiday season that we're experiencing Christmas or the holidays without both parents together. And there's a really big piece of grief there. A lot of people experience higher expectations and responsibilities during this time with shopping, making sure all of the gifts are sent to other people, or everything that we need to do around mealtime, family gatherings, and just having a big schedule during the holidays. And that can be really, really stressful. Another trigger for people is finances and travel. Sometimes the holiday season can be really, really expensive, and something to consider is if that is a trigger for you, how can we work around that? Some other people go through a period of emotional eating, and the relationship with food can be really challenging during this time because there are a lot of expectations around eating. Especially in certain cultures, we might be expected to eat more than what we are comfortable with. So all of these things can be really huge triggers for us. Another thing that people might experience is parenting. Whoever is the default parent might have all of the extra emotional, financial load during this holiday season. One parent might be completely responsible for getting the kids, setting up their schedules, setting up the social gathering schedules, gifts, food, without the other parent's support, or maybe they are a single parent. So those can be really, really stressful times. Another trigger can be alcohol and substance use. During the holidays, a lot of people do indulge in drinking more, and this holiday season can also be a trigger for substance use. So when we understand these triggers for stress, it can help us prepare and actually deal with the anxiety or depressive symptoms we might experience. So something to consider around this holiday season is how we're going to set boundaries. I think that's really important for families and kids to be able to do so that they're not feeling so overwhelmed. Okay, so what are boundaries? I think a lot of people get confused on what boundaries actually are, but boundaries are lines we draw for ourselves in order to remain comfortable and to support our emotional well-being. So what exactly does that look like? When we enter family gatherings, we might be bombarded with a lot of questions about, are we in a relationship? What's going on in our personal lives? And then the fun topic of politics tends to be brought up during these times. So some boundaries we can set around that are how can we make a choice to walk away from those conversations? What can we do to make sure we're still comfortable, or making sure our kids are comfortable when family members are asking them about their personal lives or what they're going through when maybe we're just not ready to talk about it. Some other boundaries we can set are around budgeting. So there tends to be a really big expectation for how much money we're going to spend on holidays. Our kids might be requesting something that we just can't afford. And I think having those boundaries set, those clear expectations set, can really help us with that stress of managing money. If it's something we can't afford, then it is okay to talk to our kids about that or have that expectation that this is not something we're going to be pursuing this holiday season, and that's okay. Another thing to consider is while our kids are on break for the holiday season, sometimes maintaining structure is really, really important, right? And not overscheduling activities. Kids will be coming home from school and they'll be on an extended break, and it's really normal for them to want to stay up really late or have more screen time. And sometimes that can really negatively affect the rest of the break and for you as parents. So having that structure of what time do we need to go to bed, even though it might be later than usual, and what screen time might look like, or what activities they are allowed to participate in. Making sure we're compromising with our kids as well will be really important. Nutrition is another boundary we can set around. Again, there's a lot of expectations around eating during the holiday seasons. So if that is something you're concerned about, just making sure you're still getting the adequate nutrition in your body and not overindulging or eating for emotional reasons. A really good healthy boundary to learn to set is how to say no. If a family member or a loved one is asking us something and we're not comfortable, we need to make sure we're listening to our body. If our gut is telling us, hey, this is not something that you want to talk about or you want to do, we need to learn how to say no and then be okay with that. A lot of people feel like when you set healthy boundaries, like they're being attacked, when that is not true. Some example phrases could be important. So saying, no, thank you, I would rather talk about something else, or I don't know, I'm unsure could be a good go-to phrase, and just redirecting any uncomfortable situation. And then lastly, another boundary to consider is just making sure you have the ability to leave. If you're in a situation or a social gathering where you're feeling very uncomfortable, you're allowed to leave early for whatever reason. And with boundaries comes feelings of guilt. So I would just want us to normalize it is normal to feel guilty when we are setting boundaries, but again, it's about making sure we're comfortable and our kids are comfortable. So what steps are y'all going to take this holiday season to protect your emotional well-being? Coping ahead is another good skill to have. When we're thinking about the holiday season, sometimes we get extremely overwhelmed. So what steps are we going to take to make sure we're going to be coping ahead for Christmas, for the holidays, or whatever is going on and however y'all celebrate this year? So some important skills to consider when we're talking about coping ahead is time management. So what is y'all's schedule going to be looking like? If you have a calendar and there's a lot of people asking for your time and attention, be very clear about the expectations you set around what scheduling might look like. Don't overbook yourself. So consider what activities you do want to participate in and what activities you're okay with sitting out. And make sure those are written down and for everyone to be involved in. Because when we have family members that are not sure of what's going to be going on during the holidays, you're probably going to experience a lot of pushback. So just make sure that those things are written down and you're not overbooking yourself so that you're not overwhelmed. Back to setting clear and realistic expectations, it will be important to set those expectations with our kids. So we talked a little bit about negotiating and compromising with our kids. So that might look like they're telling you what they don't want to participate in, and you have to ask yourself if that's okay or if it's something that you really want them to participate in and what that might look like. Grief is a really big topic for a lot of people during the holiday seasons. So making sure you have a plan for when that grief shows up. It could look like honoring the person in your home who has passed away, talking about the person who has passed away, and making sure those memories are still a topic of conversation. When we're not talking about someone specifically who has passed, if maybe there's a divorced parent or a single parent situation, what is the plan for how to split time with each parent? Having a good co-parenting relationship makes that easier, but I know not everyone is fortunate to have that. So I understand that can be really, really stressful. Sometimes during the holiday season, traditions change. So when we include more loved ones who might have different traditions, that can be really stressful for everyone involved, making sure they understand what traditions might be popping up or what changes might be happening during this holiday season. And then lastly, again, we talked a little bit about divorced parents, but if that's something that you're experiencing, just making sure you have a plan for how you can cope ahead. If you're the parent who's not going to have your kids during one part of the holiday season, what plans will you have to make sure you're not experiencing those feelings of sadness, anxiety, or being overwhelmed? So what actions are y'all going to take to prepare for the holidays? For the next couple of slides, Jerome Javellana is going to be speaking to us a little bit more.
Alrighty, everybody. So continuing on in terms of helping kids with their holiday stress, children also may experience holiday stress in the same way that us adults do. So one thing is that you can help kids with their stress would be consider decreasing their demands. While they're out of school, it's going to be quite normal for them to want to have more screen time, to want to stay up more, to want to sleep in later in the day. So, kind of setting the expectation for what their days should be looking like in the holidays so that they don't overdo it or cross any household rules or boundaries can really be helpful in, making sure that everybody's doing what they need to do. Also, having realistic expectations is going to be really helpful in terms of making sure the household stress stays at a minimum, right? And making sure you still have structure. Just because that they're out of school during the holidays, that doesn't mean the rules change or the rules become whatever they want to do. So making sure that, okay, just because we do have some time off school, that doesn't mean we're going to be staying up till 3 a.m. We're still going to have some rules in this house. Having open communication of, being available for their child in case that they feel stressed out or they don't want to participate in anything can really, really foster the bond between family members during this time. And help your kids with some coping skills, which is what we're going to be talking about in terms of, breathing, mindfulness, having them do some sensory activities just to keep their mind occupied in case they do experience some depression or anxiety. And of course, it would be helpful for you to recognize your own child's triggers whenever they do need some space, because sometimes they might not even know what their triggers are. So being able to assist your child can also reduce any stress that they might feel during the holidays. So moving on to some specific techniques that you can use, um, there are multiple things that can be helpful during this time. So mindfulness techniques such as yoga are really helpful because you're able to be attuned with your body. It's an activity that is used for releasing stress and just remaining in the present moment, as well as stretching and deep breathing exercises as well. Gratitude is also really good in terms of mindfulness because you are thinking about, all the things that you appreciate about yourself and your loved ones, which can help improve your mood during this time, which are what the holidays are about. Grounding techniques are really good also at staying in the present moment and blocking out any outside stressors that we have. And one of the best ways to use grounding techniques is just activating your senses and getting in touch with your senses. For example, walking outside and feeling the sun on your face is one that is a grounding technique that works. But also, while you're outside, what types of sounds do you hear? You can feel the sun on your face. Are there any other textures you can feel too? It's just the clothing, the pavement that you're walking on. Are you tasting anything? Are you eating something? Are you sipping hot chocolate during the cold outside? So thinking about how your senses are being activated are really helpful. Listen to your body and don't go beyond what it can handle, meaning that not just physically, right, but also your mental well-being too. If you feel like the holidays are starting to burn you out due to finances and stress, it is appropriate to take a break whenever you need to. Take that time for yourself, right? Which goes on to the next part, is to decompress. Holidays are fun, but they're also filled with a lot of social interaction and an itinerary of events that might not always go the way that they need to. And sometimes it can overwhelm you, right? So, making sure that you have a room to, give yourself some time before you go out again to interact with other people or continue on is really, really important, because we can't function on an empty battery, right? Practicing radical acceptance. So this goes back to, our plans might not always go the way that they need to. And if you saw on a previous slide for Coping Ahead, you saw a movie poster for Four Christmases, which is a movie with Reese Witherspoon and Vince Vaughn. And I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it's a holiday romantic comedy both of in which their Christmas plans to fly to Hawaii, I believe, get canceled all of a sudden. And they both have divorced parents. And so now they have to go visit each of them. And, practicing radical acceptance is simply, knowing what you can't control. You don't have to like it, but you can accept the problem for what it is. And ensuring your kids have a safe space to go when they feel overwhelmed, once again, is important, because you're letting the child express their needs whenever they need a break. Okay. So here's some self-care ideas for both parents and kids that can be helpful for everybody in the family to use when things start to become overwhelming. So reading and writing is a really good one. For reading, since kids are out of holidays and, families take time off of work, now's the time to actually, get back into reading. Sometimes we don't read because we're just so busy, but now reading is an activity that, allows a distraction in your mind, to let a movie play in your mind, right? Same thing with writing. Writing and journaling is really, really good because you can document everything that's going on in the holidays, what you feel, what you learned that day, what you didn't like about that day. It gets you to really really tune in and reflect upon how this holiday is affecting you, right? Regifting. So regifting doesn't mean that once you get a gift the day of Christmas, you send it to somebody else. This is regifting in the sense of, if you have an object or if you have something that doesn't get quite as used as much as you'd like it to, but you think it would benefit off of having a different owner, that would be regifting, contributing to someone else's life. There's a lot of research that goes to when we contribute, give, and say, it makes us more happy people. Gratitude, again, gratitude, just showing your appreciation for everyone. So, if you can go back with gratitude and combine writing, this is also the time to write Christmas cards to people and show their love and appreciation of what they've been giving you for the whole year. Decorating is quite a common practice whenever it comes to the holiday season, right? So decorating can be a fun activity for everyone in the house, but also, to cope ahead, decorate what you're willing to also take down when the new year comes, because if you feel overwhelmed already putting it up, how are you going to feel when you take it down, right? Coloring is great in terms of being a mindfulness and staying in the present activity, because you're activating a lot of different sensory experiences when you do that. You're touching a pencil, you're moving your hands back and forth to color. What's the texture of the crayon or the colored pencil like? You're moving the pages, to turn a page. So it's really good at staying in the present with all these tactile experiences. And moving on with tactile experiences, you have baking, which is also good in terms of like sensory touch, molding whatever it is you're making. But also, it's also a social experience whenever you cook and make things with other families. I know I have a few clients who like to make tamales with as a family. It's always like a communal gathering. And then moving on to exercising, which has always been shown to help increase mood. And, endorphins are really good for us too during that time. Of course, when it's warm outside.
And I do want to speak a little bit about self-care. A lot of the times the holiday season is really focused on pleasing other people, making sure everyone else around us is happy. And this idea of self-care is really just to focus in on ourselves. We also deserve a break, and making sure you're listening to your own body and your own needs and prioritizing them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then kind of continuing on with the nutrition conversation that we were having, if food intake and nutrition is a concern for you, then this slide can be helpful in terms of thinking about your food intake. So mindfulness eating, that simply is would be savoring each bite of the food that you're eating. If you're someone that finds yourself stress eating, this could be a tool to help slow things down. So savor every bite that you're eating, and thinking about the tastes and all the different flavors that you're eating in each food. You can also think about where this piece of food is rooted. So you're eating a Christmas Hershey's Kisses, and thinking about the wrapper it was in, what color was the wrapper that it was in, what's the texture of the wrapper that was in. Okay, where did it come from? A package. Okay, the package with how many other different colored kisses? The package also came from the store in which how many people probably had to put it up on the shelves? How many of them? And going back to the factories, so it's just thinking about the root of the food can also be helpful with mindfulness eating. And incorporating nutrient-rich food. So, just remembering to have, your healthy dose of carbs, fats, and proteins, lean meats, simply because a lot of holiday foods contain sugar. So, if you wanna try to balance it out, remember just to have, your daily dose of proper carbs, fats, and proteins. Staying hydrated is really, really important, because holiday season means social gatherings, which also means the potential for alcohol to be present in the room. So I encourage you to always stay hydrated during that time, so we don't so we don't feel the effects of alcohol when we have too much of it. And portion control. Portion control is really good in terms of regulating your food intake. And one way that's really good to help manage portion control is using smaller plates. So you feel like you can see how much you're really eating and knowing that it's not as much as a regular sized plate. And again, in terms of sugar, processed foods are part of the holiday experience, right? So being aware of, for you, what's too much or what's too little and what's the right amount.
And also to parents specifically, your kids might want a lot of the sugary foods that are available to them. And I just want to let you know that it is okay for moderation is key. It is okay to let your kids indulge a little bit more than maybe they're used to. And something for parents to be mindful of is don't feel guilty if you are letting your kids eat a little bit more sugar this holiday.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you said about, like, it's normal to feel guilty back on that previous side. So maybe in terms of boundaries, just creating the space for guilt to be felt. It's like it's a normal feeling and it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So with post-holiday blues, the holidays don't last forever, right? And a lot of us become really devastated when that time is up. So with post-holiday blues, it's just these um incoming feelings of like emptiness that we feel after the holidays, right? Excuse me, but I invite you to understand that just because the holidays are over, it doesn't mean that the memories and the meanings of the holidays have to end, right? One way is to keep the holidays alive in our hearts, year round, is to just think about the memories that have grown from it. And I'm gonna just jump down a little bit to the self-care portion, and I'll go back to the other two. But you know, just to keep the holidays, alive when it's not holiday season, is rereading greeting cards that you might have gotten from your loved ones, right? Journaling, going back to the writing portion, is that you document all the different ways that you have grown, which also connects with the reflecting on personal growth. The holidays are are a time for us to learn something new about ourselves. You'll see family that you haven't seen in a very long time, and then you'll think about how your interactions with them are in relation to you. The holidays can also bring out true colors of other people, hence political discussions at the dinner table and uncomfortable situations. Photo collaging or photo albuming can be very, very helpful in terms of just having a visual of what it was like. So find a way to, as a self-care method, to just document or find a place to put all your pictures so that you have a space to look at them whenever you want to reflect back. Playlists. This can go a little bit of different ways, because some people don't like holiday music, right? So but some people do. So having a designated playlist that you can put away until every holiday season can help build up the excitement of something to look forward to for each upcoming holiday season, right? And then jumping back also to seasonal affective disorder, I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, but that's just the depressive feelings that we feel during the fall and winter portion of the year where we have less sunlight. So just being aware where you might experience those symptoms and how to cope with that. And then holding yourself accountable to New Year's resolutions. So if there's one thing that you can take out of the holiday season, is a goal that you can have for yourself for the new year. And just writing it down somewhere on a Post-it or on a piece of paper on the fridge, just to remind yourself that's a goal you want to work on throughout the year and see if you can grow from it. Again, reflecting on personal growth. Okay, so, in the recent events of the COVID pandemic, this came from an article by Dr. Lisa Ruminali, but according to her, there's been a national emergency in a child and adolescent mental health due to the mental illness from the COVID pandemic. And with that, there have been 140,000 losses of caregivers due to the COVID pandemic. And this number particularly is seen from people of color. So something that's really, really important is, checking in with caregivers and, caregivers and really everybody to check up on, the grief and loss they might have had. How is their relationship with their parents, with their children? And just knowing that, knowing that losses can happen at the most unexpected time, very much so. And there is still stress with developing variants, with the pandemic. So, it's up to, it would be up for you to decide is, what safety precautions would I have to take or want to take to, keep myself safe, and stress to help relieve any anxiety I get from any variants and the way that they're, transferred from one person to another. And do I need to get some immunity boost? So just thinking about things to help cope ahead for the holiday season. Okay. So continuing on before with my topic of seasonal affective disorder. So this isn't just within the holiday season because winter still lasts after the holidays too. But this is a depression that occurs during the fall and winter seasons because we have less natural sunlight. As we know, sunlight is really good for vitamin D production. And to us as humans, vitamin D is good with our mood as well as melatonin regulation for sleep, right? And so some ways to help decrease the depression symptoms that we feel from seasonal affective disorder is, on top of all the different self-care strategies that we've had, light therapy or full spectrum lighting can be very helpful. These are just lights that are used to mimic natural sunlight. Aromatherapy and essential oils are good in terms of smells that we like, activating our senses of the smells that we love can help increase our mood. And even so, candles as well. Social support is, so I encourage you to keep up your social relationships with other people, because talking with friends during this time for the depression of the seasonal affective disorder can, temporarily help your mood. And then planning a vacation. So something to look forward to maybe in the summer, or even planning a winter trip can help with the depressive symptoms. So having something to look forward to and knowing the fun things that you're going to like to do. Personally, I like planning for vacations. I like pricing things out. I like looking at hotels to stay at. So it's something for me to keep active and put me in a good mood.
Talked a little bit earlier about specific mindfulness and grounding techniques that we can use. We wanted to share a very specific one with you all today. So whoever is tuning in, this mindfulness technique is called Leaves on a Stream. Some of the benefits you might get out of this is just how we can accept our thoughts without judgment and without trying to change them, and how we can tune more into our body. So I'm going to have Jerome present this technique to you. I invite you all to close your eyes if you would like, or you can follow along.
Alrighty, everybody. So I invite you to sit in a comfortable yet upright position in a chair or on the floor. Let your eyes gently close or fix them on a point in the room in front of you. Take a couple of breaths in and out. Notice the sound and feel your own breath as you breathe in and out. Now, I'd like you to imagine that you are looking at the bank of a gently flowing stream, watching the water flow. Imagine feeling the ground beneath you the sounds of the water flowing past, how the place smells, and the way the stream looks as you watch it. Imagine that there are leaves from trees of all different shapes, sizes, and colors floating past on the stream, and you are just watching these float on the stream. This is all you need to do for the time being. Start to become aware of your thoughts, feelings, or sensations. Each time you notice a thought, feeling, or sensation, imagine placing it on a leaf and letting it float down the stream. Do this regardless of whether the thoughts, feelings, or sensations are positive or negative, pleasurable or painful. Even if they are the most wonderful thoughts, place them on a leaf and let them float by. If your thoughts stop, just watch the stream. Sooner or later, your thoughts should start up again. Allow the stream to flow at its own rate. Notice any urges to speed up or down the stream, and let these be on leaves as well. Let the stream flow how it will. If you have thoughts, feelings, or sensations about doing this exercise, place them on these leaves as well. If a leaf gets stuck or won't go away, let it hang around. For a little while, all you are doing is observing this experience. There is no need to force the leaf down the stream. If you find yourself getting caught up with a thought or feeling, such as boredom or impatience, simply acknowledge it. Say to yourself, here's a feeling of boredom, or here's a feeling of impatience. Then place those words on a leaf and let them float on by. You are just observing each experience and placing it on a leaf on the stream. It is normal and natural to lose track of this exercise, and it will keep happening. When you notice yourself losing track, just bring yourself back to watching the leaves on the stream. Notice the stream and place any thoughts, feelings, or sensations on the leaves and let them gently float down the stream. Finally, allow the image of the stream to dissolve and slowly bring your attention back to sitting in this room. Gently open your eyes and notice what you can see. Notice what you can hear. Push your feet or lower body into the floor and stretch gently. Notice yourself stretching. Welcome back.
Okay. Thank you, Jerome, for presenting. That was really nice. Hopefully, some of the tips we've shared today are really beneficial for you guys, whoever is listening over the next couple of weeks. Just a little bit of information about our practice. Okay. So again, this is a little bit about us and what we offer here at our practice. If y'all do have any additional questions or would want to reach out, we do have some information about us specifically. So please feel free to reach out if you want to connect with us. Thank y'all for listening, and I hope y'all have a happy holidays.